Creativity is about freeing up the cognitive bandwidth to do the problem solving, to do the ideation, to do the big stuff that, maybe technology will do one day. But Design Pickle's platform, and then our creatives enabled through the platform, can tackle the production work, can tackle the initial concepting or the volume or hey, just give me something. I'm stuck. I don't even know. Just go crazy.
On today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, we talk to Russ from Design Pickle. Talk about the future of fractional business models and how his company can help you get out of, design pickles. Let's dive right in. Russ, thank you so much for joining on another episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat. We're pumped for this. It's always fun whenever we can get someone on from a company that we're actually using within our own agency. And so appreciate you taking the time. And before we dive into kind of who Design Pickle is, what you guys do, would love to kind of hear your backstory. How did you realize, what was the time whenever you realized that you were an entrepreneur?
Oh man, I mean, if we want to go, first of all, thanks for having me on. I love talking about Design Pickle, especially to those who are familiar with what we're doing. When did I realize an entrepreneur? To me, I didn't actually officially know what that word meant until I was in my mid-20s. But I would say I had a history of that, even from a child, and not necessarily the best business ideas. I think my mom tells me a story that my first entrepreneurial adventure was wanting to read to people and get paid to read to people. But the kind of the problem with that is that anyone who I would be marketing to could already read, and could afford to hire me. Young children who couldn't read didn't have any money, so there was a bit of a problem with my business plan there. But since then, I think a lot of my spirit was always about kind of pushing the envelope, sometimes for good, sometimes got me in trouble around what are the problems I can solve, what are different ways I can do things. And I did that in all of my jobs that I had until finally one day I was really thrusted into a life-changing event when I had my first daughter when I was 22 years old. And I realized that, wow, people who solve problems professionally, but their own problems, they decide what problems they want to solve. They create a business around that. That's called an entrepreneur. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm going to try to do this thing. And I tinkered around for it for about almost 10 years until I landed on what I now do today is run Design Pickle.
Cool. No, I mean, that's at the base, that's any good business is built on solving problems. And, kind of fast forwarding to Design Pickle, what happened? What problem did you face, I guess, to where you said, you know what, there needs to be a solution for this? So I'd love to hear kind of the backstory of how Design Pickle got started, and ultimately, what is it that you guys do?
Yeah. So I'll start with what we do. We're a creative services platform. So we come into a company using our software. You can find and work with a creative directly. And then our platform manages your files, manages the requests, manages all the workflows inside of that. And then you experience basically what it's like to work with someone kind of like you hired them. You mean, one of our plans, you work with one of our designers 9 to 5, your business hours. But the big icing on the cake is we do it on a fractional model. So instead of paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a creative, you're paying $1,000 and sharing their time with other clients. So that's Design Pickle in a nutshell. How I got there, though, was actually I was a retired agency owner, AKA I closed my agency and was consulting and found myself in, pun intended, a Design Pickle where I had a steady book of consulting clients that needed consistency in the work. And the only creative resources I could afford to hire were like freelancer or marketplace resources. And that was problematic, right? Because that wasn't steady. I would work with someone and they wouldn't be available, or they would, if it was a marketplace freelancer, often they're international and there's a lot of complication there. And I couldn't afford to hire anyone full time, and I definitely couldn't afford to outsource this to an agency. So in a kind of a point of desperation, I said, look, I'm going to try to find two people, a creative and a project manager, and I'm going to actually hire them at the same time and try to manage these requests myself, but do it with a bit more consistency. And so that was like the initial need was I just needed this consistent design for myself and my clients. Well, the funny thing happened with this is I started to run into this bottleneck where, say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I was consulting with client A and B, and Tuesday and Thursday, I was with client C and D. Well, the alternate days, I couldn't get to the other client's work. So I set up my creative and my project manager on a ticketing system, like an IT ticketing support tool. And I just said, hey, if anything comes in, get started on it, and then kind of let me see it in the after hours. And if it's close, we can send it off. And it started to create this production system. And it started working so well where my designers were using it, getting designs, and I was completely oblivious to what was happening. Like, they actually would come to me like, hey, Russ, I love the trade show graphics you did. And I totally lied. And I was like, oh, yeah, no problem. That's, hey, anytime, we got you. Well, it turns out my team knew this brand well enough, and the project was straightforward enough that they received the request to deliver. And my project manager was like, shoot, I'm just going to send it back to the client. I don't need Russ to get involved. So that was the aha moment, right? And I started running the numbers. We'd found some team members in the Philippines. So the cost of living is much lower than the United States. So the hourly rates are much lower. And I was just like, I wonder if I could build this system, get a couple more full-time, kind of fractionalize their day. So they're each working on the clients a little bit per day. And I wonder if I could just do this as like a subscription model, just a flat monthly fee. My clients don't have to worry about hourly billing or anything. And the creatives can get effectively a job, even though they're technically a contractor. I can guarantee them a monthly rate, which is hard to do when you're freelancing as an international creative. So yeah, that was, the end of 2014. We launched in January 2015. And now here we are into our 7th year. We just celebrated our 6th-year birthday, and we're a global company, over 4,000 clients, over 600 team members, 13 countries. I'm currently here in Sydney, Australia, launching our Australia offices here over the next month. Things have moved quite a bit since those early days.
Yep. No, you guys have grown quickly. I mean, notice that you guys are number 748 or so on the Inc. 5000 list. So obviously, not only do you have growth, but I mean, it's very fast growth. And I mean, it's tough. Everyone wants that type of growth, but whenever you have that, a lot of different sets of problems come up, from staffing to scaling. And obviously you guys help other companies scale. What are some of the biggest hurdles that you've kind of faced, through this growth that you never thought you'd have to try and figure out?
Oh, dude, I didn't even know what your question was going to be, but immediately I was thinking of the answer. It's like you read my mind. So what's funny is today we consider ourselves a software company, and the reason is pretty straightforward. We have, robust, 15-person software engineering team. I mean, we're facilitating millions of interactions a month. We do close to 13,000 to 14,000 requests a week. There's just incredible amounts of technology, AI, logic, all this stuff that has allowed us to get to the scale that we have gotten to. So to answer your question, my challenge is we never started off as a software company. We started off as a subscription services company. We'll give you services, and we will do it on a subscription billing model. So what really became our competitive moat, if you will, and why I never stress out when we see the latest knockoff of what we do, is it's really easy to copy the subscription services model. Like tomorrow, if your agency just wants to be like, hey, we're just going to bill everyone flat rate, you basically just create a bell curve of cost. Some clients are going to cost you more. Some clients are going to cost you less. You pick a price in the middle, and the law of averages should work out, and you'll make the same amount of money. So we've had a ton of people copy us, but what they don't realize is that our technology platform allows us to indefinitely scale. So the biggest challenges we had first were tons of hacks. Like at the beginning, if you didn't, like our subscription payment service wasn't synced with our request system. So there was no way to know if you had a paying account. Like if you just knew the way to send in a request, you could totally just hack it. And one time I did a live demo, like recorded, and the email got leaked and a few people like tested it. Thankfully, we were so small that my team caught it. So, we've always had technology up until I'd say 2 years ago is one of our biggest hurdles. Like, how do we scale onboarding of our creatives? How do we train them? How do we manage increased volume? What happens when, a system goes down and engineers aren't cheap, right? Like engineers are so expensive and we've been self-funded up until this point. So I can't just go and hire 10 engineers to create all this. I've had to always grow incrementally. So that's been the huge challenge. And sometimes I get a little like jealous of my funded software friends who've had millions from the beginning to do this right. But it also gave us our biggest opportunity because we've grown at a rate that makes sure what we're building is what is in demand. Like, what we know we're creating, we should have created it a year ago. So there's no question. We're not like, hey, what would be a cool idea? Let's do this and let's test it. And we go down this windy path only to find out that was the wrong thing. Like today we're working on launching motion graphics. We just finished the proof of concept. We're building it into the software. I could have had motion graphics 4 years ago and now we could have been a $100 million company by now. Like I've been getting people banging on the door for years for this. So, because we've sort of added software and technology secondary, what we're creating is we know for a fact it's what's needed. Maybe one day we'll catch up to the backlog and start doing the cool what if stuff. But at least for now, that original challenge have feeling like we're behind the ball has actually become a big asset as we build technology and build our tech stack. No,
I love that. And just where are you guys at with the motion graphics? We were part of that beta. It was awesome. Is that going to be a whole separate part of the plan, or is that going to be in the pro plan? Are you able to disclose that yet?
Yeah. So it'll be an add-on to the scope of pro. At this point, we just disclosure, we probably won't have bundled pricing because a lot of our clients, it's another designer. Mm-hmm. So, but trust me, the sales team, they're pretty flexible. If you want to get discounting, become friends with your sales or your account manager and they'll figure out a way to get you hooked up. But yeah, that'll be a separate, the idea for pro is that it's find your perfect creative. So you can have a motion graphic artist working with your graphic designer, working with your illustrator, working with your video editor, which we'll do after motion graphics. And that team and all that collaboration, we're improving our platform. So that's much more collaborative between all of them and things move a lot more fluid between all of them. But good to hear the beta went well. That's what I was told too. So nice to hear that they're not lying to me.
Yep. And it seems like you're kind of creating a fractional creative department. And I think, a lot of businesses are trying to move towards this to where, you got Uber, you got a fractional personal driver. It's there's a lot of models that are being built around this. We started leaning into it to where it's, rather than, our SEO service or paid media, it's you need a marketing department, but you don't need everyone full time. And that's how we're trying to, equate some of the value as a fractional marketing department. Do you think that this is the way that more and more business models are going to go? And is this good for the consumer?
Absolutely. And I think what we're looking to do is we're looking to augment, not replace. So that is our goal. And like we're speaking to a creative agency that sells their services to clients, where we want to fit into the fold is an addition to both parties. Design Pickle is not designed to be a replacement for an agency. It's not designed to be a replacement for a full-time team member. It's supposed to augment them. It's kind of like, I love superheroes and action movies. It's like an exoskeleton. You're able to do more. But if you just have an exoskeleton sitting there without a driver, it's not gonna do anything. It's just gonna sit there. So we think that what we'll find is that we're calling it the subscription workforce, where it's a new kind of labor model where companies will, when they need to grow or scale or augment their output of creativity, they'll turn to Design Pickle as a subscription workforce provider. And just like, increasing your internet bandwidth or increasing your router speed, or I guess that's kind of a similar analogy, but yeah. It's like, hey, this is what we can do to scale up and allow our team to do more as well. And then the tools that we'll be building inside of the platform is something to, again, augment creative workflows, not replace them. We're working on a revamped file management system. We're not trying to replace Google Drive, we're not trying to replace other file management systems. But with ours, if you do creative work inside our platform, the search, the process, the files, the right files, the approved files, all of those will be flagged and documented correctly so that we can augment into your Google Drive to be the official record of files that your organization should use. So back to the subscription, though, I think that is what people want. People want to be able to move up and down, in and out, get what they need and then grow it if they need it or dial it back if they need it. And our service and our model is designed that way. But trust me, you're going to see it in legal, accounting. I mean, it's in lower, the gig economy is really focused on low skilled temporary engagements. Like I don't need Chick-fil-A delivered to me every day. like DoorDash or whatever they are, although my kids would love it. So like those things are low skilled temporary engagement. When we look at high skilled ongoing engagement, that's where subscription workforce comes in. And we're pioneering it right now, but I know it'll be kind of everywhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think using the word augmented, I think that's the perfect word for it. Because I mean, that's essentially how we viewed it, is we're big on testing. And so we kind of, the people internally lead kind of the creative direction and what is it they want to say and do, and then pass it off to Design Pickle to kind of get it 95% of the way there. Any tweaks, obviously, we can do, but allows, each of our team members to kind of work with more clients, do more creative thought processes and whatnot. And it's a good relationship.
Well, I recently watched the Netflix series, The Queen's Gambit, a chess series, which I thought was a true story the whole time. Turns out it's not. So spoiler alert if anyone watches it. And I love chess. I'm terrible at it. But what's funny is the best chess players in the world are not man. Computers beat them long ago. But the best chess players aren't computers. Actually, there are these teams called they're called mentor teams. They're hybrid man-computer. So a human uses a computer to consult with, and that team can beat a pure computer any day of the week. And that's what I think creativity is. Creativity is about freeing up the cognitive bandwidth to do the problem solving, to do the ideation, to do the big stuff that, maybe technology will do one day, but Design Pickle's platform and then our creatives enabled through the platform can tackle the production work, can tackle the initial concepting or the volume or the, hey, just give me something. I'm stuck. I don't even know. Just go crazy. And that then frees up the cognitive bandwidth of our clients. And our tools, our software actually helps free up the cognitive bandwidth of our creatives. Like our creatives don't have to worry about managing their workflows or what are they going to do or which clients are they going to work on the day. Our tech and our automation does that. So we actually try to make that work both ways. Like if our creatives are buried in accounting and billing, how are they going to be the most creative for you? And we try to take as much friction as we can out of the process so the clients can be their best and our creatives can be their best.
No, I think you said it best. It's that working together. And I mean, you hear AI all the time. Is it going to replace jobs? I truly think that it's going to be a good relationship between humans and AI. I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom stories, but I think that's where it all, the power comes from is it allows you to free up the manual redundant tasks and free up more of your creative mind to then solve bigger problems. That's going to push business further and quicker, which ultimately everyone wins at that point.
And what's great is whenever technology helps take off the cognitive load or the labor load of us as workers, as employees, as entrepreneurs, it allows us to solve bigger problems too. And so, that has happened throughout history as we looked at manufacturing, services, technology. And now it's happening in creativity. And so it makes me excited. It's like, what would agencies and creative departments and marketers and, teams be able to do if they never had to worry about creative ideation again? Like literally, like you show up and you log into your Design Pickle platform and it's recommending, like Netflix, 10 to 20 things that it recommends that you should be creating right now, based on data from your business, from your industry, from where you're at. Like you could solve much bigger problems at that point. And that's where we're headed. That's what we're building at Design Pickle.
Do you guys, going to get into A/B testing here in a second, but do you guys have plans on integrating into like CRMs or Google Analytics to really take a look at what creative is being pushed on what platforms and what's working? And from that, you guys can come up with some of those recommendations? That
and a lot more. Let's just say I'm hiring engineers that I don't even understand what their titles are, but they are like data scientists more than they are computer programmers. But yeah, that's what we want to do. We are on a mountain of treasure. We are on a treasure trove of data. And what we want to do is responsibly analyze that data and be able to make creative recommendations at the software level. Again, both for our designers and for our clients. So we want to recommend, like, what should you be creating? What would be ideal based on the time of year, based off of what you've already done? And then on our creatives, we can take a look at the clients, what their brands are, analyze that, and make recommendations creatively on where they should go so that it helps them improve based off of data and not just about intuition.
Yeah, get to that point. Good luck knocking that off. That's that's the next frontier. That's ultimately what everyone wants, is what creative's working better, what placements and all that type of stuff. So I think there's a growing need for those data scientists that can take what's working, what's not, to help fuel the creative decision making, for sure. More on that, you guys have grown quite a bit, obviously, the last several years in that Inc. 5000 list. You also mentioned that you haven't taken on any funding. Maybe recently you have. So, bootstrapping and growing that quickly, it's typically not said in the same sentence. So how did you guys grow so quickly without the funding? How are you guys able to decide where to spend your money? Because at the end of the day, if you have the funding, it's easier just to kind of waste it on those. That would be cool to have, but isn't in demand now. So how did you guys navigate being able to grow by bootstrapping?
Yeah, I think it happened by accident initially. I created a pricing and a business model that had this crazy thing called profits from the beginning. So I didn't operate in a negative deficit. And it seems to me that that's not necessarily common sense nowadays with a lot of business. It's like, let's get all this money and let's start this business, and we're not going to make any money for years. So we need to borrow the money. But look, like, I knocked that, but I have very successful friends who sometimes when you're building a business and there is an upfront cost that is, you just can't get around. Yeah. But yeah, we were posting profits from day one. So I piled all of those profits back into growth, paid advertising, event marketing, trying and testing salespeople, hiring and firing marketing people. Like, I've always been laser focused on that is the lifeblood of where we're at. We can optimize for gross margin. We can optimize for profit later. But for us, the ability to grow means we're solving a problem. We're delivering on that. We're doing something right. So, to this day, which we still have yet to procure any outside funding, investment funding, like, I push on growth because I know we're in the 5 to 10 to 15 year game here. We can, once we get to a certain macro scale, we can start tinkering and analyzing or slowing the growth down to optimize that profit. Yep. But for now, it's all a push on that.
the things that you've reinvested into? I mean, you mentioned paid channels, salespeople. I mean, is there a certain thing that, I mean, obviously as you're testing, it's throw a little bit of money there. Let's see what happens. It doesn't work. Let's reallocate, but it's always reallocating and testing. And that's usually what we see is the quickest to find growth. But what are some of those things that you reinvested into where it was just like, all right, we need to put more fuel on the fire here. This is just accelerating, growth like crazy.
When we were a lot smaller, and I wouldn't say we're gonna stop doing this. It just becomes harder to ROI because the investments have to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But when we were a lot smaller, event and trade show marketing was so great for us. Because look, if we picked up 10 or 15 accounts, that was enormous. Like that was a huge, huge thing. Now, I want at least 10 or 15 accounts or more per day.
Yeah.
But what I learned, and this is what people are unwilling to do at the get-go, is like when you're forced to talk face-to-face and pitch yourself and be turned on, in that mode for 2, 3, 4 days in a row, you learn a lot about your product. You learn a lot about where you're hitting the mark, where you're missing the mark. You do some fancy trade show booth thing like we did, and people don't understand what you're doing. Well, clearly your messaging's off. So it allows you to just like real time A/B test stuff. And then you can take that and put that online. The problem with online first is you're just letting the algorithms, you're letting the math, you're letting these things decide for you. And what could happen is it could start to lead you down a brand or a message that is performing, but inauthentic to your company in the long run. And you might have an equal or better performing metric or ad or message. But like the incremental data testing process does not bode itself well to big creative leaps or jumps. It's just like, change this. Now we do this. Now we do this. Now we do this. And so in real life, I could, one guy can be like, hey, we're Design Pickle. We design cool shit. And then in another one, I could be like, hey, we're Design Pickle. We're a creative enablement platform. And the next, and I'm just getting this live feedback and I can see what's working, what's allowing me to explain myself less or get to that prospect excited. And so that's what I love about it. And we'll get back to it. But like I said, the performance is a huge issue because often there's so much upfront cash you have to spend and you don't ROI that until the event. So if I have an event 6 months from now, I'm usually gonna have to pay for that now, but I can't extract any value of that until like a couple weeks at the earliest. So that makes it, when you start to get to larger and larger numbers that you need to ROI, it's, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for an event. And so, thankfully COVID has just eliminated that from our playbook right now, but we'll probably get back to it just on a different scale with it. But I love it. And it's, and if you're a young entrepreneur or you're trying something new, like have the guts to get out there and pitch it for 2 or 3 days. Don't hide behind a computer, like put yourself out there. And if you're unwilling to do that, why would someone want to buy from you online? Like that's my thought.
Makes sense. How have you guys done, with COVID? It sounds like you guys are doing a lot of events. Obviously that kind of shut down, but the space that you guys are in, I mean, the need for digital content creation, I mean, exploded after COVID and people realized people had to sit at home. I mean, how have you guys kind of weathered the storm the last 12, 13 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. We've had huge growth from a head count, from a client count, and I think the world is ready for new solutions like ours. I wouldn't say it's been easy, especially for some of our clients. We lost a fair amount of clients last year that were impacted by COVID, and that's heartbreaking because we're not a company that's looking for millions of clients. My wildest dreams, we have 10, 20,000 clients. I can't even imagine anything bigger than that. So if we lose a bunch, 20, 30, 40, we know it. We see it. We're counting them. Everyone matters. So that was challenging. But at the end of the day, it made me very relieved that we had built our business the way we built it. We've always been kind of an online business, even though we have an office in Arizona. We have team members around the world. We've found ourselves in the right place in the right time from decisions I made in 2015 about how I wanted to build the business. That really, aside from the initial dip in February and March that the whole world experienced, we really didn't, we didn't have any much impact beyond that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's been a wild ride the last 12, 13 months. I mean, it's crazy, but glad to see that, we're opening back up, and you guys are here in Phoenix, right?
Yeah. Our offices are up by Westworld, like the 101 and Bell Road.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're down in Tempe, next to ASU, and it's things are opening back up, which is great, and hopefully see you guys doing some more events. But kind of transitioning into more of on a personal level, stumbled on your book, Sober Entrepreneur, and one thing that really stuck out there was you calling out change your family tree. I'm big on that because, we kind of say it here in the offices. What can we do to help businesses get out there so that the people working in the business can change their family tree and maybe introduce them to consumers that their product or service changes their family tree. So it really resonated. Where did that come from? Where did the book come from? Would love to kind of hear more about that.
Yeah. So, my journey has been very storied. The core of the book is around my journey with drinking and alcohol and deciding to quit, and my background and what kind of drove me to that. I don't want to spoil too much for the audiences, but it's a compelling one. And the genesis of the book, it's not, what's funny is I released a book the same week Russell Branch released a book on drinking. And I was like, damn it, this guy's going to steal my thunder. And, his book is like this crazy rock star partying lifestyle. And he's so funny, and he's a comedian, he's an actor, he's all this thing. And, my life's pretty bland compared to that. But what I realize is that what we write and the stories we leave behind are our legacy, and it's the purest form of documenting that when you write it yourself. If you write, if someone writes about you, there's always going to be some cognitive bias or things they missed or an agenda. But, if you're truthful and true to yourself and you write something, I think that that's something that's going to be the most honest representation. So I wanted to capture that for my family, for my legacy, for my future kids, kids. It's like I wanted that to be something that I could give them one day and say, hey, I'm not perfect. Here's a bunch of mistakes I've made. You're going to make a bunch too, but maybe you don't have to make these mistakes. like learn from this. So that's why I did it. It was a monster project. It took me so much longer than I thought, like almost 2 years to do. It's not even a long book. It's like 200 pages. So it's not like this is some Magna Carta here, but I did want there to be that posterity piece. Cause I don't know about you, but like my mom or dad, they never handed me anything like, hey, I know I've been your parent, but now you're old enough. Like, here's something I did. Here's like my words of wisdom for you, or this or that, like they didn't do that. So, changing my family tree was literally about that. Like I can redirect, like I'm going to be the first branch on this new family tree. So whatever that story becomes, I'm dictating it as I live right now. So I might as well take control of that narrative and redirect it. Cause my past, my father, his father, they were more recipients of whatever was just happening in their life. And that's just kind of how it was. You just kind of rolled with it. And you didn't complain. You didn't you just did what you're told. And so I was like, no, screw that. I'm going to create my own story. Like, here's where we're going. So post publishing it, we've sold thousands and thousands of copies. I get emails once a week from people still. It was published at the end of 2017. And I get emails once a week about people who read it and it's impacted them. So I'm really proud about that book because it's written for a general audience too. Even if alcohol is not your thing, I argue we're all addicted to something. Yep. And so this allows you to really explore that.
No, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. Something you can pass down to the kids and wrote the book, growing a business, bootstrapping it, have a family. How do you balance work-life balance? Is there a balance?
No, like I'm in Sydney for probably 6 weeks. I probably will talk to my kids 4 or 5 times if time zones match up, and maybe my wife the same or less. Like there's no balance. Like yep. You just gotta go in ebbs and flows. And, I'll have an awesome summer spending a ton of time with them at home and on a couple trips we're going to do. So like my theory is you just swing the pendulum and it's going to swing one way for a bit. And then you just got to make sure you swing it back. And then, and that's, I think, how greatness is built. You know, it's not about just walking the line of, you know, I'm going to work for 2 hours and then I'm going to meditate and do this. And then I'm going to, you know, have 3-hour work session and be at home at this time. I mean, good luck. But I think that's just kind of mediocrity. Like, you're never reading about these great leaders and these people who've gone all in and changed their lives and changed the world by like a really balanced time blocking calendar that it's like so perfect. It's usually bloggers and people who aren't really doing much that create this illusion of balance. And I'm like, screw it. You know, I'm going to go one direction. I might burn some bridges, and I'm going to go another direction. I might burn some bridges at work. I might not get enough done that I should be getting done. Then I'm going to go here and I'm going to do this. But the aggregate of all of this moves big amounts of effort. And that's how you build great things. So I just make sure that I'm keeping a baseline of health. You know, I'm in a hotel room for 2 weeks, and I had a couple gym things delivered, and like, I'm going to keep a baseline of health, baseline of mental health, baseline of awareness of, you know, what's going on in my business and in my family. Then beyond that, then it's all in on whatever my main projects are for that point in time.
No, I love it. I can agree more. I think too many people focus on the micro rather than the macro. And it's sure, I mean, if you're 100% all business, you know, your family's going to suffer, health is going to suffer. But I think it's more on the week to week, month to month, stuff like that, rather than 2 hours here, going to do an hour there. And it's almost going back to the mental capacity thing. It's almost like you're counterintuitive of making things happen, because it's always, well, what's the next hour dedicated to, or hour and a half? I think the macro is where it's at.
And to be honest, if I have 2 hours blocked out for something, I'm probably wasting an hour and a half of it anyway. So like, why kid around, you know, like I'd rather just like have, like, for today, I have like two things on my agenda. I have, you know, my hotel training, and then I have, that's one. And then I'm going to work on reaching out to sales contacts here in Australia. That's it. It'll probably take me a total of 3 hours to accomplish that, but I'm not going to stress about it. I'm not going to try to do all these other little things in addition. It's like, if I can just do those things, then I'm solid for the day, and anything else is gravy, but I'm not going to over-engineer it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Definitely a different perspective. I mean, it sounds like you're always working on something, whether it's the business, it's the personal, it's you're always working on something. What are the biggest things? And I think everyone gets really stuck on long-term goals, but you know, what are the big things that you're working on from a personal level and a business level that you're trying to accomplish in the next, say, 3 to 6 months?
You know, it is launching our international local markets. So we are hiring and building teams in Australia. We're going to do it hopefully by the end of the year in the United Kingdom. So that's what I'm focusing on. Just doing a lot of the heavy lifting. You know, these are projects. They're kind of like the trade show investments. There's not a lot of ROI until much later. So I don't necessarily want my teams focused on them. I want my teams focused on the near term. So I take on these special projects. And then it's supporting the future of our platform. You know, I work directly with our VP of product, and he's an incredible guy, Kyle. And we have some huge vision. We have some new big ideas over the last 6 months that are going to require some radical shifts in how we operate, how we change. So supporting him. Actually, a third is also just in supporting the rest of my executive team. I have a executive team, about 7 people that across the departments. They cover a lot of angles. And so I'm meeting with them one-on-one. I'm problem solving, you know, like, this is really sad news, but we had a team member pass away. One of our designers in Mexico recently passed away this week. So, you know, dealing with that. I mean, that's not something I'm dealing with. I'm grateful and I'm honored to support it, but those are, you know, I got to support my team members, got to make sure they're okay, make sure we handle this situation correctly. It's not a common thing that has happened for us. So there's just like tons of navigating the unknown. So that's why I don't try to put too much on my plate of like projects or things I'm working on, to be able to have room for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a few things going international, dealing with internal stuff. Yeah. Just a few things.
Well, I'll add, coming back full circle to the beginning of the interview, I'm just going to throw it out there. I mean, it's just like again, coming back to that concept of cognitive bandwidth. Like I need to be focused on being able to thinking big, working on big challenges, emotionally being able to support people when I need. And if I'm caught up in the busy work of the day to day, then I'm not going to have the ability to do that. I'm going to be exhausted. So I try to take, the solutions we're providing for our clients, I try to adopt that same philosophy for myself.
Absolutely. And you're making all the right moves. Love the growth that you've had over the last few years. Like I said, our team loves having the extra bandwidth that you guys provide. A lot of the audience here, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and I think there's a lot of them out there that could benefit from your help, whether it's creating Facebook ads or landing page designs, whatever that may be. If you're in a design pickle, I guess, where can someone find you guys and look you guys up?
Yeah, so 2 places I recommend everyone go. If you're just interested about Design Pickle, go to designpickle.com, spin up a chat. You'll talk to our bot initially, but it's easy to find a person because it just sorts you where you need to go. And our services are guaranteed. That's kind of the quick and dirty sales pitch is like, you can try us out. Our plans start at $500 a month and there's no risk. So it's like either we help you a lot and you continue on, or we don't help you and you get your money back. So like, I kind of tease the sales team when they were like, yeah, I had an hour-long sales call. I was like, what did you talk about for an hour, man? Like, just get them, just try it. But also, if you want to follow what I'm up to, later this year, I'm launching a newsletter. I don't know when it's going to launch. I'm not going to send it out a lot, but it's called Under the Lid. So if you go to designpickle.com/under, that is my personal list. You won't get marketing emails. You won't get anything, but I like to tell stories. I like to document my journey. And so later this year, I'll be getting back on top of that.
This has been great. It's look forward to this for a while and awesome to kind of hear your journey and how Design Pickle has grown, and excited to just see you guys continue to explode.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for having me. Good luck to your team. And hopefully we'll see you guys on the motion graphics plan later on.
we're chomping at the bit. So we'll keep an eye out. We'll definitely take you up on that.
Awesome. Take care. Thank you.
Appreciate it.